Family reunions should be about reconnecting and celebrating together. But this one turned into a battleground the moment my father stood up, face flushed with anger, and announced to everyone, "Vacation is off. Expect a visit from our lawyer." All because I refused to co-sign a $220,000 loan for my sister Alicia's boutique. The golden child never heard no before. I saw the shock on all the faces around the table, but I remained calm. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button. Growing up as the son of Harold and Diana Matthews was an exercise in learning my place early on. From the time I was old enough to understand family dynamics, I knew that my sister Alicia was the sun our family orbited around. Every achievement, every milestone, every dream she had was celebrated with fanfare and support that never quite materialized for me. When Alicia needed a new computer for her art projects in high school, Dad bought her the top-of-the-line Apple desktop. When I needed one for my advanced placement classes that same year, I got permission to use the family computer in the living room. When Alicia wanted to attend a private university across the country, my parents dipped into their retirement savings to make it happen. When I got accepted to a state school with a partial scholarship, I was told to take out loans because it builds character. My childhood bedroom walls were mostly bare, while Alicia's room was a shrine to her accomplishments. Dance trophies, art competition certificates, and school awards covered every surface. Not that I was without achievements. I maintained a 4.0 GPA throughout high school and was captain of the debate team. But somehow my victories were always acknowledged with a distracted good job while washing dishes or during commercial breaks. Mom always played peacekeeper. Whenever I would point out the disparity in how we were treated, she would pat my hand and say, "Your sister just needs more support. You are so independent and capable, Sheldon." It was a backhanded compliment that stung more than healed. I was independent because I had to be capable because no one was coming to rescue me. Despite the uneven playing field of our childhood, I managed to build a life for myself. I worked full-time throughout college, graduated with a degree in finance, and secured a position at a respected financial analysis firm in Chicago. For 6 years, I put in 60-hour weeks, lived frugally in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates, and saved every penny I could. My colleagues went on exotic vacations and leased luxury cars. I drove a 10-year-old Honda and took on extra projects during holidays for the bonus pay. Last year, all that discipline finally paid off when I received a substantial promotion. Senior financial analyst had a nice ring to it, and the salary bump allowed me to finally purchase a small but well-maintained 2-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. It was not much compared to what most 32-year-olds might want, but to me it represented freedom and stability I had carved out entirely on my own. My girlfriend Gabriella was the first person who helped me see my family dynamics for what they truly were. We met at a mutual friend's wedding 2 years ago, and her background in psychology gave her insights I had never considered. "Your parents created a golden child and scapegoat dynamic," she explained one evening, after I had received yet another call from my mother asking if I could help pay for Alicia's car repair bill. "It is not just favoritism, Sheldon. It is a systematic family pattern that places all the family's hopes and dreams on one child while making the other the responsible one who is expected to sacrifice." Meeting Gabriella changed everything for me. She helped me establish boundaries with my family and recognize my own worth outside of their validation. With her support, I began attending family gatherings less frequently and stopped being the financial safety net whenever Alicia mismanaged her money, which was often. Despite these positive changes, there was still a part of me that longed for family connection and acceptance. So when the annual invitation came for the Matthews family reunion at my parents' cabin on Lake Michigan, I decided to attend. The event had been a tradition since before I was born, bringing together not just my immediate family but aunts, uncles, cousins, and even some longtime family friends. "Are you sure about this?" Gabriella asked as we packed the car for the 5-hour drive. "You know how these things usually go." "It will be different this time," I said carefully, placing the gifts I had purchased for everyone in the trunk. "I have stronger boundaries now, and having you there will help." Gabriella squeezed my hand. "Just remember, you are allowed to leave if it becomes too much. Your mental health matters more than their expectations. The drive to the cabin was filled with memories as we wound along the coastline. I pointed out landmarks from my childhood to Gabriella, telling her stories of the few happy moments I remembered from family vacations past. As the familiar dirt road leading to the cabin came into view, I felt both excitement and apprehension churning in my stomach. Mom was the first to greet us, rushing out onto the porch with open arms. "Sheldon, you made it, and Gabriella, so wonderful to see you again." Her enthusiasm seemed genuine, and for a moment I allowed myself to hope this reunion might actually be the connection I had always wanted. The first evening of the reunion was surprisingly pleasant. The cabin buzzed with the energy of 20 family members catching up, sharing stories, and enjoying Mom's famous lasagna. Uncle Rick regaled everyone with tales from his recent fishing trip to Alaska. Aunt Meredith showed off pictures of her new grandbaby. My cousin Jordan had just graduated medical school and was starting his residency program. I found myself relaxing as the night went on, a cold beer in hand, as I sat on the deck overlooking the lake with some of my cousins. The tensions of the past seemed distant under the canopy of stars reflecting off the water. Maybe things really were changing. "Your sister has been talking about some big announcement," my cousin Taylor mentioned casually. "Any idea what that is about?" I shrugged, genuinely unaware. "First I am hearing of it. Something about a business venture, I think," she continued. "Your dad seems really excited about it." Before I could probe further, I noticed Dad and Alicia in deep conversation near the boathouse. They kept glancing in my direction, only to quickly look away when they caught me watching. The familiar knot of unease began to form in my stomach. Later that night, as Gabriella and I were getting ready for bed in the small guest room we had been assigned, I overheard snippets of conversation through the thin walls. "He has to say yes," my father's voice carried. "After everything we have done for him. What if he does not?" Alicia's voice now tinged with worry. "He will. Your brother might be stubborn, but he knows what family means." I glanced at Gabriella, who had also heard the exchange. "Sounds like they have plans for you," she said, her expression concerned. The next morning at breakfast, Alicia made her grand announcement. She stood at the head of the table, practically vibrating with excitement as everyone gathered around with coffee and pancakes. "I want to thank everyone for being here today, because I have something amazing to share." She began, her voice pitched higher than normal. "For years, you all know I have dreamed of opening my own boutique, and I am thrilled to announce that dream is about to become reality." She pulled out glossy business cards and passed them around the table. "Alicia's Atelier," they read in elegant script, with a projected opening date just 3 months away. She then produced an iPad and began showing everyone digital renderings of a sleek, modern retail space in one of the most expensive shopping districts in Chicago. "It is going to feature exclusively sustainable, ethically produced fashion from independent designers," she explained, swiping through images of clothing that looked wildly expensive. "I have already secured relationships with 15 artists and have a location on hold." Everyone around the table erupted in congratulations. Mom wiped away tears of pride, and Dad beamed in a way he never had for any of my accomplishments. I joined in with sincere congratulations despite my private reservations. I knew the fashion industry was brutally competitive, and Chicago's retail market was already saturated with boutiques catering to the exact demographic she was targeting. "This is really impressive, Alicia," I said, examining the business cards. "When do you officially sign the lease?" A flicker of something crossed her face. "Well, that is the next step. I am just finalizing some financing details." Dad cleared his throat. "Actually, Sheldon, we wanted to speak with you privately about that. After breakfast. Why do not you join your mother Alicia and me in the study?" An hour later, I found myself sitting across from my family as they laid out exactly what these financing details entailed. Alicia needed a small business loan of $220, $000 to secure the retail space purchase, initial inventory, and cover operating costs for the first 6 months. However, due to her poor credit history from unpaid credit cards and a previous failed attempt at an online jewelry business, no bank would approve her without a co-signer. "This is where you come in, son," Dad explained, leaning forward in his chair. "With your credit score and financial background, the bank has pre-approved the loan with you as a co-signer. It is just a formality, really. Alicia has a solid business plan, and this location is guaranteed to succeed. I maintained a neutral expression despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. Can I see the business plan? Alicia produced a thin folder with a few spreadsheets inside. As I flipped through the pages, my concerns only deepened. The projected revenue was wildly optimistic. The operating costs severely underestimated. There was no emergency fund built in, no contingency plans, and no consideration for the fact that most retail businesses do not turn a profit for at least the first year. I will need some time to think about this, I said carefully, closing the folder. Dad frowned. What is there to think about? This is your sister's dream. As family, we support each other's dreams. I understand that, but $220, zero, is a significant commitment. I would just like to review everything carefully before making a decision. Mom reached across the table and patted my hand. We know you will do the right thing, Sheldon. You have always been our responsible one. That night, while the rest of the family enjoyed a bonfire by the lake, I sat in our room with my laptop researching Alicia's previous business ventures. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Her online jewelry store had accumulated over $30 0-inches debt before closing less than a year after launching. She had also apparently started and abandoned a personal styling service and a handmade candle business, both of which had cost our parents thousands to fund. Additionally, a quick credit check revealed Alicia currently had nearly $45 0-inches credit card debt spread across 6 different cards. If I co-signed this loan and she defaulted, which seemed highly likely based on her track record, my own financial security would be completely destroyed. What are you going to do? Gabriella asked, sitting beside me on the bed. The only thing I can do. Say no. They are not going to take that well. I closed my laptop. I know. But I cannot set myself on fire to keep Alicia warm anymore. I spent the next hour drafting talking points for how to deliver my decision in the most respectful but firm way possible. I even prepared an alternative offer to help Alicia develop a more realistic business plan. Start with a smaller scale operation or explore options that did not require such a massive initial investment. The next evening, during a family dinner, I found my opportunity to address the loan situation. Alicia had been dropping not-so-subtle hints throughout the meal about color schemes for the boutique and asking my opinion on different display options, clearly operating under the assumption that my agreement was a foregone conclusion. Actually, Alicia, I wanted to talk about the loan, I said during a lull in conversation. I have given it a lot of thought, and I am sorry, but I cannot co-sign. The table fell silent. Alicia's fork clattered against her plate. What do you mean you cannot? She asked, her voice rising immediately. I maintained a calm tone. After reviewing the business plan, I do not believe the financial projections are realistic. The risk is too high, and as much as I want to support you, I cannot put my own financial security on the line this way. This is just like you, Alicia spat, tears already forming. Always so selfish. Always thinking about yourself. Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. We are not asking you to give her the money just to sign a piece of paper. After everything we have done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? I asked quietly. I put myself through college. I built my career without connections or help. I saved for years to buy my house. I have always been self-sufficient. So now you are throwing it in our faces that we supported your sister more. That was because she needed it. You were always fine on your own. Mom began crying softly. Sheldon, please. This means everything to Alicia. We would ask her to co-sign for you if the situation were reversed. But it never would be reversed, would it? Because you have never held Alicia to the same standards as me. She has never had to be responsible for her own finances because someone always bails her out. I turned to my sister. I am happy to help you create a more sustainable business model. Maybe start with an online store to build your brand before committing to an expensive retail location. I could even provide a small investment as a true gift with no strings attached. I do not want your charity, she snapped. You either support me completely or you do not support me at all. Dad pushed back from the table and stood up, his napkin falling to the floor. Family meeting. Now, everyone in the living room. What followed was one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. Dad essentially put me on trial in front of the entire extended family, detailing how I was refusing to help my sister achieve her dreams despite my fortunate position. Alicia sobbed dramatically about how hard she had worked on her business plan and how this was her one chance at the location she wanted. Uncle Rick and Aunt Meredith exchanged uncomfortable glances. My cousins stared at their feet. No one wanted to be involved in this uncomfortable family drama, but Dad had forced them all to witness it. "I have always been there for this family," Dad announced, pacing in front of the fireplace. "Always put family first. But apparently Sheldon has different values." I remained silent, seeing no point in defending myself further when minds were already made up. Then came the moment that would change everything. Dad stopped pacing, pointed directly at me, and announced to the entire room, "Vacation is off. Expect a visit from our lawyer. I will not have an ungrateful son who refuses to support his sister when she needs him most." Gasps echoed through the room. Even Alicia looked shocked at this escalation. I simply nodded, stood up, and walked out of the room. Behind me I could hear Mom calling my name, but I did not turn back. Something about Dad's legal threat triggered a memory I had nearly forgotten. 3 years ago, Dad had asked to use my address for some mail related to a business venture. I had agreed without much thought, but then started receiving calls from a collections agency about an outstanding loan I had never taken out. When confronted, Dad claimed it was a misunderstanding that he would clear up. I had trusted him and let it drop after the calls stopped. Now that incident took on a more sinister meaning. Once back in our room, I opened my laptop and began digging deeper into my credit history, requesting detailed reports from all 3 major bureaus. What I discovered sent a chill down my spine. There had been multiple credit inquiries in my name over the past 5 years that I had never authorized. While no accounts had successfully been opened, the pattern of attempts was disturbing. "Gabriella, look at this," I said, showing her the screen. "Someone has been trying to use my information to apply for credit." Her eyes widened as she scanned the report. "You think it was your father and sister? Who else would have access to my social security number and personal details? And why else would Dad immediately jump to legal threats?" I continued searching and found something even more alarming. Dad and Alicia had created an LLC last year, with a name very similar to my financial analysis firm, with an address listed as a P.O. box in my neighborhood. It was as if they were creating a shadow version of my professional identity they could leverage. "This is identity theft," Gabriella said quietly. "You need to protect yourself." I nodded already, formulating a plan. I texted my law school friend Thomas, who specialized in financial crimes, explaining the situation and asking for urgent advice. His response was immediate and clear. "Document everything, secure all accounts, and file reports as necessary." Throughout the night, while the house slept, I methodically followed his instructions. I placed freezes on my credit with all 3 bureaus. I changed every password on my financial accounts and added 2-factor authentication. I documented all the evidence of the unauthorized credit inquiries and the suspicious LLC. By dawn, I had secured my financial identity as thoroughly as possible and had drafted emails to my bank, credit card companies, and employer's HR department, alerting them to the potential fraud attempt. The last step was the hardest but necessary. I filed an official identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission, listing all the evidence I had gathered. As the first light of morning filtered through the cabin windows, I packed our bags quietly. Gabriella and I slipped out before anyone else was awake, leaving only a brief note saying we had decided to return home early. The drive back was silent for the first hour, both of us processing what had happened. Finally, Gabriella spoke. "Are you okay?" I considered the question carefully. Strangely, yes. For the first time in my life, I feel like I am standing up for myself against them. It hurts, but it also feels right. By noon, my phone began blowing up with notifications. Apparently, the family had awakened to discover not only our absence, but also the consequences of my nighttime activities. Dad could not access the family business accounts because I had alerted the bank to potential fraud. Alicia's loan application had been flagged and frozen. Even some of the extended family members who had financial connections to Dad and Alicia were finding their accounts under review. The voicemails ranged from furious to hysterical. Dad threatened lawsuits for defamation. Mom pleaded for me to undo whatever I had done. Alicia accused me of destroying the family out of jealousy. I responded to each with the same calm message: I have documented evidence of attempted identity theft using my personal information. I have filed official reports with the appropriate authorities. I am open to discussion once everyone is ready to acknowledge what happened and take responsibility. Uncle Rick was the first family member to contact me independently. Kid, what exactly is going on? The way your dad explained it, you went nuclear over a simple loan disagreement. I sent him copies of the credit report and documentation of the fraudulent LLC. His next message was much different in tone: Jesus Sheldon. I had no idea. What can I do to help? Within days, the family narrative began to shift as more relatives learned the truth. My cousins reached out with messages of support. Aunt Meredith called to say she had always thought the way my parents treated me was wrong, but had never felt it was her place to interfere. A week after the disastrous reunion, Dad finally called with a very different tone. The bluster was gone, replaced by something I had never heard from him before: fear. The bank is investigating our accounts, he said quietly. They are talking about fraudulent practices. That tends to happen when you try to steal someone's identity, I replied evenly. I never thought of it as stealing. You are my son. I just needed to use your good credit for a while until we got on our feet. That is exactly what stealing is, Dad. And identity theft is a serious crime. There was a long pause. What do you want from us, Sheldon? I want you and Alicia to get professional financial counseling. I want Mom to stop enabling both of you. I want acknowledgement of what you tried to do to me. And I want a sincere apology, not just because you got caught, but because you understand how wrong it was. The road to family healing was neither quick nor easy. At my insistence, we began family therapy sessions with a counselor specializing in family financial dynamics. I chose not to press criminal charges on the condition that both Dad and Alicia enroll in financial literacy courses and stick with their therapy commitments. Mom had perhaps the most difficult journey, forced to confront how her peacekeeper role had enabled toxic patterns. I always thought I was protecting the family by smoothing things over, she admitted during our third therapy session, but I was actually helping to maintain the dysfunction. Alicia struggled the most with accepting responsibility. I was just doing what Dad taught me was okay, she argued initially. It took months for her to recognize her own agency in the situation. For Dad, the hardest part was relinquishing his patriarchal control. His identity had been so wrapped up in being the family decision-maker that learning to respect boundaries felt like a personal defeat rather than healthy family dynamics. As for me, I discovered that setting boundaries was only the first step in healing. Learning to forgive without allowing further harm was the true challenge. Gabriella was my rock throughout the process, reminding me that forgiveness was for my peace, not their absolution. 6 months after the reunion incident, Alicia approached me with a revised business plan. She had scaled down her boutique concept to an online store, with occasional pop-up shops, requiring a much smaller initial investment that she could fund herself with a legitimate small business loan. I actually did the financial projections myself this time, she said, showing me a much more realistic spreadsheet. The course you paid for really helped me understand cash flow and operational costs. She paused, fidgeting with her coffee cup. I also wanted to say I am sorry, Sheldon. Really sorry. Not just for the identity theft stuff, but for years of taking advantage of you. You were always the responsible one because we never let you be anything else. That conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. We would never have the carefree sibling bond that some families enjoy, but we were building something new based on mutual respect rather than obligation. I still attend family gatherings, but now they happen on my terms. This year, instead of the traditional Lake Michigan reunion, I hosted a smaller gathering at my home. Gabriella, now my fiancée, helped me create new traditions focusing on genuine connection rather than appearance or status. What I learned through this painful experience is that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to refuse to participate in damaging patterns. Standing firm in your boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for everyone's growth. The temporary pain of confrontation leads to healing that endless accommodation never could. Financial entanglement is an especially dangerous form of family dysfunction because it can literally destroy your future. No amount of guilt or manipulation is worth sacrificing your financial security. Real love does not demand financial self-destruction. I share this story because I know many of you might be facing similar situations with family members who feel entitled to your resources. Remember that saying no is sometimes the most important word in preserving both your relationships and your well-being. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family over financial matters? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Thank you for listening. And remember, family should lift you up, not drag you down.